What's going on, everyone? My name is Riccardo. I'm joined here by my friend Sabrina. Welcome to another Milan Reports post match interview. Sabrina, hope you're doing all right after this Inter loss in the Coppa Italia semifinal. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. How are you
Yeah,
feeling?
feeling really disappointed because if it was a game where we didn't play well or we didn't deserve the win, I could accept it, but I feel like we deserved a lot more from that game, so it's just a very bitter pill to swallow right now.
Definitely, it started with a goal right in the first few minutes, and I don't know. From there, I was feeling bummed all throughout, and then the second goal right before the first half ended just kind of put me to sleep there. Just kind of realizing, oh, this is going to be heartbreaking, especially to your crosstown rivals. We have a lot to go ahead and discuss here between Pioli's tactics, some refereeing decisions that were made in the game, player ratings as always, but I'd love to go ahead and hear from everyone here in the comments. With that, Milan losing 3-0 in the Coppa Italia semifinal against Inter. Two goals from Lautaro Martinez and then Rob Gosens there to go ahead and put his first derby goal in an Inter shirt, just coming over from Atalanta this season and a goal that was supposed to be Ismail Benacer got taken back due to a VAR resulting in the call being offsides on Pierre Kalulu, obstructing Handanovic's view. Um, wow, we'll have a lot to go ahead and discuss there. Again, everyone, thanks for joining in here to the stream today. Right off the bat, let's go ahead and just talk about the game here. What are your first overall thoughts, Sabrina?
I mean, I don't think either team was the clear dominant team in this matchup. I think it was just a matter of Inter were more clinical. They took their chances, they finished their chances, whereas we didn't. When they were up 2-0, it was 2-0 with two shots on target. So we still have these lingering problems in attack where we cannot score. And I know the Genoa game might have seemed like we'd gotten past that, but you see the same problems again in this match, which was very disappointing because I thought we played decent. I thought, you know, aside from not being that clinical, aside from a few defensive errors, this was like a game that you could look at and say, you know what, we did all right. So very disappointing because of that, because it's just I just don't feel like we deserved to lose by a scoreline of 3-0.
Absolutely not. I thought, especially coming away from the Genoa game, carrying some of that momentum, go ahead and be clinical was not that was the case today again. Milan were not able to go ahead and put away the chances that they were given to them. And Inter, again, you said it, two shots, two goals. And that came from something that we've not been comfortable with this whole season here. Just seeing our defense being so spectacular and being able to go ahead and not concede any goals in League Serie A here in the past few games. And then just kind of having this breakdown here, especially super early in the game. Just seemed like Kalulu, Calabria, Tamori, Magnan were not all on click there. And I wonder if that was going to go ahead and be the case of the evening where it was just going to go ahead and be a dominant Inter side. But again, you said it best. There was no clear who's going to go ahead and be on top because Milan, again, looked aggressive when they were going up. And we mentioned this before. They do this shot clock attack where they act like they have 24 seconds to go ahead and get the goal in. But at times, we were moving the ball around the back, and maybe Kessia did make some deep runs there from the 10 position. So we were trying to go ahead and create and give those chances. But at the end of the day, Giroux did not score. Leao did not score. Macias, Alexis Salamakers, Benacer scoring an offsides goal, I guess. Man, but
Oh yeah, it was. The other thing too was even if when we did get a chance and we did get a shot in, it was just a matter of them picking out their corners and us shooting the ball straight at Handanovic.
exactly.
Most of our shots on target didn't even trouble him. He really didn't have to go out of his way to make a save. And as some people like to call him, stand Danovic, you pick your corners against him, there's a pretty good chance that he's not going to get to ground to get it. But instead, we just thought, let's just shoot right at him. And it didn't work. It wasn't working. And we didn't change our approach, which was also very disappointing.
And that was the end of the game like that. Messias shooting it right at Handanovic, even super late in the game. Story of Milan today. Just want to go ahead and ask Sabrina, this performance, how does this go ahead and carry into the weekend when we go against Lazio away from home in the Serie A?
Well, that's the thing that was worrying me post match, and I had posted that on Twitter because I wanted to see what people thought. How does this affect us mentally? Because if you're going to have a performance like this where everything kind of goes wrong no matter what you're doing, it'd be better to do in the Coppa Italia, despite the fact that I really wanted to win this trophy. But it's better for it to happen in a cup game like that and not in the league. So it all depends on, I guess, the players, because you could take this either way. You could take this as a, well, you know, Inter's the one we're competing with. They're on a high. They're going to go on and get this. We have no chance. Or you could say, you know what? We didn't like the way that game ended. We don't want them to go and get their second star and get the domestic double this year. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to go to Lazio and we're going to show them that we're Scudetto contenders. And I'd like to say it's the latter,
Mm,
but just in the recent weeks, the way that we've been showing up for games, I kind of think it'll negatively affect us.
mm.
Maybe I'm just trying to do a reverse jinx here, but I don't know. I a lot of people on Twitter are confident. I'm feeling really defeated after that loss, so I hope Pioli can get the guys together and just tell them to forget this and move on. But right now, I'm just feeling like it's going to be the complete opposite.
It doesn't sound like you're feeling too optimistic going into the weekend here. And it's okay to go ahead and be a little bit negative coming out of this game. I mean, how does this affect our players, especially mentally, where it seems like that is a huge issue? Our players just lack that confidence, and then it shows in front of goal. You mentioned here um, people on Twitter being a little bit comfortable going into this game. You don't feel that way. Maybe some of the players can go ahead and step up here, but you said right behind Pioli to get to the players and back them up and make sure to motivate them into the day. Pioli overall rating, were you satisfied a little bit? How were you overall discuss Pioli's tactical decisions, I guess?
I think at halftime he kind of gave up.
Mm,
And I mean, it all depends on what he and the club have discussed. Like, what is the priority here? Do they want us to prioritize the league? Do they want to prioritize the Coppa Italia? But I can't exactly blame him if he was, because when I saw he was putting on Salamakers and Diaz, I thought, okay, Salamakers is clearly coming off, or sorry, he's putting on Macias. So it's like Salamakers coming off for Macias, that's fine. Who is he going to take off for Diaz? Because I
mm.
thought, Kessie didn't have that bad of a game. And when I saw Tonali, I thought, what? He's not injured. As far as I know, he didn't get a yellow card. And even, whoop de doo, he wouldn't have, missed the next match anyway. So I'm thinking, is he just doing this because he's figuring, you know what, let me rest my players for the game against Lazio? Because Tonali put in a shift. He was everywhere. He was in midfield, he was in defense, whatever. So once I saw that, I thought he's given up. Whether that's the right decision, I don't know. But if it was me, with a thin squad, so many players injured, not that many options as it is based on form of the players, I probably would have done the same thing. So it's more important to try and get that league title that we've been waiting for over a decade, or to try and get to the final and overcome a 2-0 lead. I don't know. I would have probably done the same thing. So I can't judge him too harshly. I know a lot of people are really annoyed at his substitutions, and I don't think he made those subs thinking this will win us the game. I think he made those subs thinking, you know what, it's over, especially when he took Benacer off. Like, after that debacle with the disallowed goal, he's probably like, you know what, this man's put in a shift too. Let him have some rest and start fresh against Lazio. So I'm not going to blame him. I think he made the right decision in the end.
That's a great way to view it. Tonali coming off there for Diaz. Thought maybe Diaz performed a little bit better than in the previous pass. Was able to go ahead and drive with the ball into Inter's defense and then distribute wide. Stayed on his feet a little bit more. Overall, didn't go ahead and create much. Didn't go ahead and get an assist or a goal there. The story of Milan here lacked that clinical up top, but not too upset likewise here for that substitution. I thought, especially if we're going to go ahead and rest some of these players for the Lazio game this weekend, bringing in Diaz, moving back Kessie, which again, Kessie didn't really have a bad game in that first half, was able to drive into the box and get the shot off, make him look a little bit hungry, especially, going down early in the game. I thought Milan would go ahead and need to boost up their attack and be a little bit more clinical, try to go ahead and find the head of Giroux, which again wasn't much of the case here today. But overall, with purely substitutions, I mean, you got to compare the substitutions we made to some of the player that Inter came on. I mean, when you bring on Alexis Sanchez and
Yeah.
Seco, Arturo Vidal. I mean, we had Lazetic come on the last 5 minutes for Rafael Leao. I don't know if this was the game to go ahead and bring him on to go ahead and get the minutes for Milan, but looking at one positive, I guess it's just resting these players. If the Scudetto again is the main priority here, we're still ahead of Inter in Serie A here. So Tonali coming off, Benacer coming off, Leao coming off. The game was kind of wrapped up by the end there. Milan wasn't going to go ahead and come back to 2-0 deficit. So let's just go ahead and dive straight into some of these player ratings. Any final thoughts here on Stefano Pioli here? I will show you the player rating that, I guess the manager rating that he got here, and we'll go ahead and discuss here fair or not. Pioli here with the rating of 5.
Yeah, and it is what it is because he didn't do in this game what he needed to do to win it, but at the same time, what options did he have? Even if he was going to go for it and wasn't looking ahead to the Lazio game, the squad's very thin with injuries. So, for example, when he wanted to take off Calabria, he doesn't have anyone to put in there. So it's like, okay, well, and then you could have said if Romagnoli was healthy, okay, yeah, Romagnoli, Tomori's good with Kalulu on the right. He doesn't have that. So I just think that he was just his management in this game to win this game, probably not the best, but
Mhm.
overall, looking at the big picture, that is what it is. So I'm not going to be too harsh on the guy.
I was asking myself the other day if Calabria was going to go ahead and play this match. I thought he had a
Mm-hmm.
little minor injury here, and if Kalulu was going to go ahead and be moved out right back and then see Gabia play the center back position. But question here in the chat by Admiral. For the Lazio game, do we go with Kalulu at right back and Gabia at center back, or Calabria at right and then just keep Kalulu in the center back position?
I still feel, despite the goals that went in today, I still feel more comfortable with Kalulu and Tamori as a center back pairing than with Gabia. And not necessarily a knock on Gabia, but you saw in the last match when he played, he just looked so shaky. And that just comes from not playing. It comes from not being confident. So in a game against Lazio, especially going up against Ciro Immobile, who for the life of him can't score for the Azzurri, but for Lazio can just pump in goals like it's nobody's business. I'd rather see Kalulu and Tamori in the middle there.
Yeah, I think this game is way too important, especially coming off this loss for the Scudetto race. I don't think it's time to go ahead and make that change to see Gabia at the center back position. I think that was a little shaky today. Just keep Kalulu in there. You mentioned it, Ciro Immobile, very deadly and clinical striker under the Lazio jersey. So just go ahead and keep the Tamori and Kalulu partnership there. Go with
Yep.
Calabria at right. And again, at least we have Gabia there to go ahead and come in and then push Kalulu out wide in the later part of the game if that's needed. Would have been nice to go ahead and have a healthy Romagnoli at this time, but
Yeah.
got to make do with what we have. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, great question. I'd like to go ahead and see what everyone else is thinking there. So just go ahead and drop that in the chat. Moving over from Pioli here over to the rest of the player ratings. Wasn't really a man of the match for Milan here today, although this 3-0 performance, we go ahead and gave Benacer here rating of the 6. You mentioned he went ahead and put in a shift. He was very technical on the ball, although that one excuse me, in that second half, being caught sleeping and losing the ball. I think still he's the dominant force in the midfield, the engine,
Mm-hmm.
getting the ball, distributing out wide, finding players up the field, Giroud on his feet, even getting that goal, that technique to go ahead and bang that in. He's really good on the volleys.
Yep.
I thought it was going to go ahead and have another one this year, spark a comeback here. 2-1 would
Yeah.
have been so doable, especially with the amount of time that we had. Um, but it wasn't
Especially
like that.
knowing that a 2-2 tie would have seen us through. So we wouldn't even have had to go for a 3-2. Just one more goal and we could have gone through. But that decision after that brilliant goal and getting it disallowed, it just took the wind right out of our sails
Let's go
and
ahead
pumped it right into
yeah.
Inters.
Let's talk about that that disallowed goal there. So, hitting the volley there, what, five Inter players in front of Handanovic, and then
Yep.
Kalulu in an offside position. He's seeing the volley, the technique set up from, Benacer, so he's trying to move out of the way. And, Handanovic, you mentioned Standanovic, standing there trying to look away. I mean, you have five Inter
Uh,
players on your right, and then Kalulu, running to the left, and he's trying to look to the left of him. And I don't know. Even I think if Kalulu was in there, he wouldn't be able to go ahead and block that. I think,
no way. I mean, okay. A lot of people, even some Milan fans, are saying, well, if he's in the line of sight of the goalkeeper, that's offside. Sorry, that's just the rules. Get over it. I've seen it from so many angles, and you'd have to assume that the VAR sees that as well. I've seen it aerially, where if you're looking at the net and Benacer is shooting to Handanovic's right, Handanovic is on the left side of his goal. Well, like even if he wanted to, he couldn't get to that ball. Then I saw from behind a shot from behind Benacer, and Handanovic has a clear line of sight. He clearly sees the shot. And I'm just thinking, what exactly was Kulu impeding?
mhm.
Especially because when he saw that Benacer was ramping up for that shot, he ran out of the way. He didn't run into the path of the ball. He ran the opposite way to get out of the way. So I'm sorry, him merely being there, he did not. I'm sorry. And nobody can convince me. And I'm not going to argue with anyone. No one and nothing that you say can convince me that he was impeding Handanovic. I'm sorry. That to me was a really, really poor refereeing decision, especially because at first, the call they were reviewing was if it was a handball on Tamori, because that is what the players were calling for.
Mhm.
Not one person called for offside. And usually that's a good indication. If the other team is trying to say, especially the goalie, trying to argue to the ref, oh, I was impeded, then okay, maybe he's playing, but that's a good indication. Just like they all raised their hand when Tamori hit it. But none of them did that. And you could see Handanovic looking at Benacer. How was his line of vision impeded? Like, I'm sorry, nobody can tell me otherwise. I thought that was just awful refereeing.
Yeah, no, there's no bias there either. I mean, you can even see from Handanovic after the goal went in, he was just putting his arms up in disappointment
Hmm.
because that ball went through how many Inter players?
Yeah,
Like practically all five of them that were
yeah,
standing there. And, if they're complaining about the handball and Tamori, he's disappointed that this ball goes in through his whole practically players. And then, Kalulu's running out of the way. Kalulu probably had no idea that he was being, under VAR for, being a possible offside. I thought the attention was on Tomori's handball. I had my
yep.
goal tweet ready to tweet, and I was looking at the replay, waiting for the angle to show the chest. And as soon as it hit the chest, I was like, okay, this is a goal.
Yep.
Send tweet. Then I read possible offside. What's going on here? It is a pretty poor decision here. I definitely would have changed the game. That is something that we're not going to go ahead and sit here and talk about what if that got in, how the game would have gone ahead and turned around. But poor call there, VAR, and then Inter go ahead. Of course, you miss
Yeah.
one, they go ahead and score another one. So put the game away there. I mean, overall, I thought the referee here was giving out yellow cards like candy. I think players were getting booked left and right. A couple of the Inter players, even Theo Hernandez, on the tackle on Correa, which first, they were complaining that it wasn't a yellow card. Kind of harsh. She didn't get the ball there. When we look at the replay, did get the yellow. Might have been a little fair, but man, no, no. This referee was giving out yellow cards, poor VAR decision. Overall, I don't want to go ahead and sit here and blame the refs. I think Milan still need to go ahead and be clinical. Let's just go ahead and get to the rest of the players here.
Yep.
I know that you don't see Rafael Leao on this rating here. I'll go ahead and drop in the chat Leao rating of 5.5. Okay, so that's what our Milan reports, guys. Went ahead and rated him here at the 5.5. Oh, let's go ahead here and start with our back line. Kalulu with the 6, Tamori with the 5, Calabria 5.5, Theo Hernandez 5, and Mike Magnan 5.5. Overall, our defense performance, what would you go ahead and say over this?
I think that's the ratings are fair. I was very disappointed in Teo. I thought he started the game really rough. He just overall he didn't really grow into the game, and he was being very risky. That free kick that he had got in the first half,
Mm,
it was a clear dive. There was no point in which the Inter player, I think it was Perisic, touched him. And then when with that challenge on Correa, at first I thought, oh my God, he got the ball. How could he possibly get a yellow? And then looking back on it, it's like you went from behind and you took out his foot. And I mean, that could have been a straight red. He was on a breakaway and you stopped a goal scoring opportunity. And then there was another challenge that he had, I think maybe on Darmian in the box, that looked like,
mm.
for me, wouldn't be a penalty, but the way that penalties are called these days might have been a penalty. So I was just overall disappointed in him. And aside from not being that great defensively, he didn't really contribute much to the attack. He's just gone back to this point where he's bringing the ball forward and he's not making the right decision, whether to pass, whether to hold, whether to shoot. He's just not making the right decision. So overall, I thought he was very disappointing. Calabria, he was all right. He wasn't really a liability, but in the end, he didn't really do much for us either.
Pretty
Tamori, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say Calabria pretty mid performance. I mean, if
Yeah,
if you're gonna be average in the attack and output, I thought you could go ahead and be a little bit better on the defensive
yeah,
output. But Correa, when he was taking him 1v1, it was just taking him by pace. And when you take Calabria 1v1, it looked like he just got the better of him every time. So
yeah.
definitely,
When Inzaghi knew what he was doing, right? Correa is one of Inter's forwards that can actually dribble around players. I think that's the reason why he didn't start Dzeko. And it was effective. It was definitely effective. We didn't have an answer for that.
Tamori frustration at the end there, getting the yellow card. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, you could say for both goals he had blood on his hands, but I'm not going to berate the guy. He's been absolutely amazing for us. Things happen. You can't have a perfect game every time, but a rating of 5 is fine. Um, and I get that he's frustrated. And, at the end, should you lose your coal? No. But we clearly weren't going to the final. So, and the game was over. So it wasn't like he would get a red. We didn't have any chance. So, yeah, he got the yellow, but whatever. Go off, get that frustration off in this kind of game and, keep your composure against Lazio because that's when we're going to need it. At that point, it was just irrelevant. Sure, give a card. He, like you said, he was giving them out like as if it was chocolate on Easter. So go ahead, give the card when it means absolutely nothing for us. Fine, if that makes you happy.
yeah, I can't be too harsh on the guys here, especially after all the outputs that they've given us this season and keeping the games nil-nil, and our offense not being able to score, but being a little bit of a few yards away from Lautaro Martinez on that first goal. I mean, I think it could have just been like the guys were not fully awake. I don't want to go ahead and try to make excuses here, but Tomori has been a very good unsung hero for us here this season. So want to go ahead and brush this off here. You said it. Get that frustration out. We're not going to the final. Big game coming up here against Lazio. This is the one that we need to go ahead and turn everything around. And we're sticking with the Tamori and Kalulu center back
Mm-hmm.
partnership. So, man, I mean, how many, our offense have had so many, Serie A blunders here, 0-0 games. And, our defense is keeping it nil-nil, Malnian making the super saves. it's just, statistically, you're going to have a bad
Yeah,
one here. And
absolutely.
this is a huge team we're going against, Inter, who has the players, who has the depth. And Inzaghi is very attacking minded coach. So, you said it, the partner, excuse me, the marksmanship between Calabria and Correa, that battle there, took full advantage of it, and Lautaro Martinez taking full advantage of the space given by Tamori and just slotting it away. Unacceptable here. Learning experiences. Hopefully, we go into that for the Lazio game. We go ahead and get these guys really conditioned for Ciro Immobile, because man, on a Lazio jersey is something else, especially at
Yeah.
home. So for him, this will go ahead and be a big game for us as well. Tonali leaving at halftime. Alexis Salamakers also leaving. Kessia staying, but they get the rating of 5.5, and Alexis Salamakers 5.5 for our midfields here. And then on the other side, again, Leao rating of 5.5 on the left hand side. Discussion here on our midfield.
Yeah, I thought at times our midfield was definitely overrun. But I think the reason for that was Tonali was dropping pretty deep, which I think is a direction that he had gotten from Pioli, especially after being, you know, getting down that early goal. I get that he dropped back a bit, but in that case, you'd think that the instruction to Kessie would be once Tonali drops back, you drop back as well. Because I thought the reason that Pioli put Kessie in there and not Diaz, aside from Diaz being out of form, was to try and neutralize Brozovic.
Mhm.
But I didn't really see that from Kessie, so wasn't really an effective game plan there. But in the end, Kessie, for the first half at least, he wasn't that bad. He was getting some chances on net. Um, a little bit of a heavy touch sometimes, but overall he was okay when he was playing in that number 10 role. And then, Tonali I thought was great in what he was doing, like helping out the defense. He had a lot of just like he swept the ball a lot. You could see when, Tomori or Kalulu were otherwise occupied, Tonali would sweep in, get that ball, clear it. So I thought he did a great job. I was disappointed to see him come off. And then you could see with Benacer, like they're a great tandem because Benacer's first touch is just impeccable. I mean, people were saying that he didn't exactly look too comfortable. Maybe he got a knock or something, but my God, he was brilliant. And just to watch him under pressure, even one player, two players, or more, the way that he feels comfortable and confident enough to control that ball, does it well, and is able to get himself out of that pressure so he can lay the ball off for one of his teammates is just so impressive. But I just found it kind of changed a little bit when Salamakers came off and Tonali came off as well. But I don't know, Salamakers, what can we say? Him and Macias, they've just been trading back to back awful performances. And that's the only option Pioli has. So you think, okay, Salamakers doesn't have it. Let me put on Macias.
Mhm.
Macias come on, and in the last few months, he hasn't had it either. So I know Salamakers had that really good shot, but again, right at Handanovic. And it's like, as a winger, we're not expecting all our goals to come from you, but we need some production out of you. We've seen production come from Leao on the left side this season. What have we seen from our right wing? Salamakers has one goal this season, I think. Macias maybe has two or three after that game on the weekend. But it's so disappointing. And Diaz, he came on. He was a lot better attacking than Kessie was when he was playing in that role. But at the end, he just couldn't get anything going. He just doesn't have that physicality. He was being bullied by the Inter defense and even getting the free kicks. I mean, our set pieces have been awful, so the free kick isn't really a gift to us. But he just at the end he can't harness that power, and it was just nothing was working. Nothing was working. And then once again, you have Giroux. He's pretty much marked out of the game all the time. I mean, it's hard for him to get anything going, even when there's a rebound and he's going for it and he's in the right positions. He's got two guys around him all the time. So we want to see him score, we want to see him produce, but how? how he's one man up there. He's the lone striker. And if you're not getting that quality service, if you're being marked out of the game, there's not really much he can do. He's just rendered ineffective.
Well, I do want to go ahead and point out exactly how you mentioned it. Giroud just ghosts in these games where he's man marked at the top there. You know, enters three center back that they play in the back there, one at a time. If Bastoni goes up, it's like a Brozovic stays back, and then Giroud still has three people around him. So it's like the only time we're able to find Giroud is when we're crossing these balls into the box. Who Leao isn't that much of a crosser. If you've noticed, he likes to go ahead and close down the space, dribble at the player, and then maybe get something off or even a low driven cross. But the expectation, at least from Macias and Alexis Salamakers, to bring the service in, or at least from Diaz to go ahead and bring the service in. Diaz likes to go ahead and get the ball in these pockets of space that are super small at the top of the box. Yeah, we win a lot of fouls there. It gets closed down a little bit, but I don't really see him connecting with Giroud and doing 1-2s or something like that to go ahead and bounce off. He's kind of like a player that just drives with the ball to go ahead and take the
Mm-hmm.
space, wait for the numbers to come up, and then go wide. It's like we have the Spanish Jack Grealish on our team, so it's
Well, yeah, you can see when he gets the ball, he kind of just puts his head down and powers forward. It's like, but we're going to need you to look up. We're going to need you to try and link that dribbling, that speed with something. And the dummies and the flicks, they don't work if you're not in sync with your striker.
mhm,
All that happens is we lose the ball. We lose the ball, we lose the ball. It happens over and over again. It's like, it's not working. Stop doing it. It's like, how is that not getting through your head? That's been Diaz's biggest problem this season. It's like, what you're doing is not working and you need to adapt. And although I thought he had a decent game,
mhm,
it's just that final product just is
mhm.
not there.
And there's times where when he does get fouled in certain positions. You said it. I mean, we're not the best team on set pieces, so it's kind of like, all right, we're here. And then there's times where he gets muscled off the ball, and there's no call there, and it's like, man, you're so weak. You're gonna go ahead and continue to lose the ball. It's like, um, you know, it's frustrating to watch just
Yeah.
all of this attack and then going down the waist. I want to go ahead and move over to Salamakers and then Messias. With Salamakers, we've reiterated all season, the poor performances, and it's because of these bad shots or bad productivity, services in the box. But today he was a ghost in the first half. We couldn't really go ahead and judge him too heavy on just how bad of some of his misses or offensive output was when he wasn't really getting the ball on the right hand side. Even with Calabria, he would get the ball on the right hand side, drive a little bit, give it to Salamakers, who would play it back. There wasn't really no chance creation there. So that substitution to get this man off the field, it didn't even come with us seeing how bad of his performance was. He just wasn't giving any output. And then Messias comes on, and then you said it. It's like, man, do you want to go ahead and start with this? Or do you want to go ahead and start with this? And neither of them sound pretty pleasurable to either one. And then I can't, sit here and keep defending Junior Messias. I honestly, I'm just like, it's like he gets the ball and just continues to lose it, or when he drives with the ball, it's you could see he's not that skillful. I don't want to be too harsh, but it's incapable, I guess, to beat some players 1v1. I guess the better the player on the better team, the harder for him to go ahead and create that offensive output. Man doesn't even have a right foot to cross into a
Yeah.
box full of like six Milan players at one point. Continuously likes to go ahead and do the cut in, and then those crosses are either 5 feet too short at the front post, or he's looking to go ahead and have that hit. And the one chance that he does to go ahead and decide to shoot right at Handanovic. For me, don't want to go ahead and be continued to be too harsh, but I just want to go ahead and be clear here. I'm just overall not satisfied with Junior Macias. Don't
Yeah.
want to go ahead and say I'm not satisfied with Alexis Salamakers. It's more just like continuous disappointment from him. But
Yeah.
overall, for Macias, I just can't, um, see him anymore in a Rossoneri shirt, especially coming into next season and stuff like that. Like great backstory and stuff like that. But I think, um, Milan, with all the speculation, with new owners and on the investment we're going to have, I don't know how much of it is true on that, $300 million treasure chest, but if we are really going to go ahead and invest into a right side, I think it's just best to go ahead and part ways, not even keep them on the books. I know
It's
there's
true.
speculation of a loan or even some kind of trade deal with Sassuolo. I mean, if there's something that we can do there and use it as a business deal, sure. Like, thank you, Macias. It would be great pleasures playing for Milan. But overall, I'm not convinced to go ahead and have him back. I don't want to sound too harsh. Want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I just feel like we've had this really this big gaping hole at right wing for almost the whole season. Because at the beginning, Salamakers wasn't too bad. And then when Macias came, he was doing a better job than Salamakers. But I'd say maybe since January, this has just been like the hole where our attack goes to die. So at what point do you just say, listen, it is what it is. We've got these two players. Neither of them are informed. Neither of them are doing well. And you either say, okay, let's just put Rebic at right wing. He's played there before. If Rebic doesn't have a full 90 in his legs, fine. You watch Diaz try and blaze through the middle, dribbling through the middle every time he gets the ball. Why don't you just push him out to the right? Push him out to the right. See how that works out. And in that number 10 spot, I wouldn't even put Kessie there. I would put Benacer there.
Mhm.
He's been one of our most creative players. We've seen how he does well under pressure. We've seen him create, lay the ball off, making brilliant passes. I mean, I would, at this point, the attack is so stale that making changes in an important game like the one against Lazio, it might even be a benefit rather than being too risky. Put Diaz out on the right, put Benacer in that number 10 role. Let me see Kessie and Tonali in the middle and see what happens. Like Kessie and Tonali both very physical, and to have someone like Benacer who's also physical, who's also despite his size does not get muscled off the ball. Like I'd really like to see him there and what he does there, because we can't just be doing this Salamaker start. He's not doing well. Macias comes on. He doesn't do well either. Okay, let's start Macias. Macias doesn't do well. Let's put Salamakers on. Salamakers doesn't do well either. Like we have very few chances left in this season. We only have what, 5 games left? Like we cannot afford to just let our attack die. So something has to change. Something needs to happen. But next season, like, because right now we are stuck with the way we are. Next season, no Macias, and Salamakers cannot be our starting right wing. If you want to have him come on, be the backup, or have him come on as a sub in the 60th minute or so, that's probably fine. But this man is not our starting right wing, and Macias should not even be a substitute on this team. With the ambitions we have, I'm sorry. It was a great story. He did well for
Mhm.
a little bit. That goal against Atletico we'll remember forever. But going forward, he can't be part of our plans.
Well said. I exactly with Alexis Salamakers. If you are going to go ahead and play him, substitute player, 60th minute. We've seen it, when we have those 1-0 game leads or 2-1, where we go ahead and have him in, and he's definitely a workhorse in coming back and try to go ahead and defend. But and the offensive output is that's exactly where we lack. I'm even tempted, I'm even thinking about Kalulu if we had healthy center backs right
Yeah.
now. I mean, that
Yeah.
one moment he played right back for us last week, 10 minutes in, getting the assist. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just don't want to go ahead and beat a dead horse over and over and over. It just seems like overall we're not too satisfied here with Macias, and we're on the same page that we don't want to go ahead and see him again for next season. So go ahead and recap here overall on any final thoughts on the player ratings, any questions, anything you want to go ahead and say, Sabrina?
No, just better see a lot better ratings when we play Lazio on Sunday, because if we have these kind of individual performances for the rest of the games, the rest of the season, it's not going to end well for us. And I know at this point we don't hold our fate in our hands, which is completely our fault. But I mean, you never know. Like all of the teams have dropped silly points. Like all of the top teams have dropped really silly points. So yeah, you could look at Inter and say they definitely have an easier run in. But this weekend, yeah, we're playing Lazio. They're playing Roma. They're playing a Roma who just advanced to the semifinals of the Conference League, which I know is not that prestigious of a tournament, but they're riding high on that. They're riding high on that late equalizer from El Shawari in the Napoli game. And they have a chance. They're fighting for something. They have a chance to qualify for the Champions League. So it's not like Roma's sitting there going, nothing left to play for this season. With Juve being streaky and dropping points the way they did against Bologna, Roma has everything to play for. So we can't just sit back and say Inter have the game in hand. It's against Bologna. They'll probably win. And then they have their fate in their hands. So we're done for. We need to fight until that last game, until there's mathematically no way we can win that trophy. Like, foot on the gas and don't ease up for a second. Like, we need to go into that Lazio game. We need to score. We need to score early, and we need to neutralize Ciro Immobile at all costs. And that our midfield has to be on point. We can't have Milinkovic Savic running things in the midfield. So there's everything to play for. As defeated as I am, there's everything to play for. And I just hope they come with the right mentality, because we definitely weren't clinical enough in this, despite the fact that overall we didn't play too badly.
Yeah, although despite this 3-0 loss, the scoreboard doesn't do it justice. We didn't play too horrible to where it was full domination by Inter. Guys need to go ahead and fully turn it around. The mentality needs to go ahead and shoot up here, because the Scudetto now is in our hands. Anything that continues for the next few weeks, any mistakes, anything that happens is our fault. So the guys need to go ahead and get the chances right away and put them away early in the match. You said it here. Like last time against Lazio, we were so dominant. So we need to go ahead and be out there and show that again. I've got the Serie A standings here that I'll go ahead and mention real quick. So I'll give you guys a little understanding of what it looks like going against Lazio. Right now, Milan sitting at the top of Serie A, having played 33 matches with 71 points. But Inter is just behind us here, played 32 matches with 69 points, where Lazio sit in sixth place here, just in a position for a European competition here, that Conference League. 33 matches played with 56 points, although they are a little bit lower in the table. This seen it. Milan is not too hot against the teams that are in the mid-table and in the lower half of the table. I got here my screensaver is the goal, the Giroux goal against Lazio. Where he sauced the defender. It's got to be like that, because that game brought so much excitement for us. That Coppa Italia match where we were Giroux just coming off of scoring against Napoli, now against Lazio here, continuing the momentum. Excuse me, scoring against Inter and then going against Lazio there, and then continuing his form against Napoli later on. Big game player. This is a big game. Need our guys to go ahead and step up. Um, any final thoughts here, Sabrina, as we wrap up our post match? Guys, I know it's heartbreaking. Try to go ahead and lift your shoulders up a little bit. Don't be too upset on the players. We need to go ahead and focus on the Serie A. Very heartbreaking that we're not going to go ahead and see that Coppa Italia silverware. But now it's all about the Scudetto. And if we lose on that, especially to Inter again, I'm going to lose my mind, Sabina. I don't know what's going to happen. Can't go ahead and have that here. So
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, just seeing them on the sidelines prepared to celebrate at that final whistle just made
yeah,
me sick to my stomach. After winning the Super Copa, when we won it in 2016, it was like, oh, that's useless silverware. When they won it this year, it was like they won the Champions League. I don't want them to win another Coppa Italia, nor do I want Juventus to win it. For all I care, I hope Fiorentina wins it. But at the end of the day, it's Inter playing another game, one more game than we are. And not only for that Coppa Italia match that happens May 11th, I believe, but also they're playing Bologna next week, midweek. So hopefully that tires them out. Hopefully there's something that can make that difference. We have 2 less games to play than they do. And God, if we could just keep healthy, if we could just be clinical, and if these guys could just sit down in the freaking training room at Milanello and look at each other and say, something's got to give here, guys. We've got to score. We got to do this. You can't just blame it all on Pioli. As players, just for me playing competitively but not professionally, if something wasn't working at halftime, we would talk to each other and be like, okay, their defense is playing like this, and we can't do it like this. So let's try and do this. Let's try and do that. You try and come up with ways to make that difference. And I hope that they're doing that in preparation for the Lazio game. I hope we don't have to stress for 90 minutes. I hope they can come out right away, score 1, 2 goals, and then control the game. And we get another clean sheet like we've seen in Serie A the last few rounds, because it would be so disappointing to come this far and to be this close and to be eliminated from the Coppa Italia by Inter and then literally hand them the Scudetto too. So we have to do everything we can because our run-ins are much harder than Inter's. We've got a tougher schedule, but we can't let that stop us.
Well said, Sabrina. Well, I want to go ahead and thank everyone here for joining us today on a kind of heartbreaking post-match review here. I know that Sabrina and I continue to deliver the sad news here on our post-match reviews. Pretty soon here, we'll go ahead and have another exciting win podcast. But in the meantime, guys, huge match against Lazio here on Sunday. Go ahead and get the fans riled up. Start tweeting, start posting the pre-match hype. Go ahead and start talking about it. There's been a lot of Milan chat all week from the investor corp rumors, the new owners,
Yeah.
of course, continuous transfer market with Asensio last week. We got Raheem Sterling today. I'm sure you read it.
Yeah.
So it's all the Milan news is always there. The Milan drama continues, but want to go ahead and thank everyone and hope everyone has a great day. All right, thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.